Welcome to the channel, and imagine this for a moment. What if a single small imperfection, invisible to the casual eye yet monumental to the trained gaze of a coin collector, transformed an ordinary piece of pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure worth a fortune beyond imagination, a coin so rare and mysterious that its story seems torn from the pages of a secret history? The 1966 quarter dollar of the United States, a coin born in the turbulence of a nation undergoing radical change. Struck at a time when the U.S. Mint was facing unprecedented challenges, when silver was being stripped from our coinage, when the transition to clad coins introduced new complexities, and when the minting process itself was under strain from relentless demand, a perfect storm for errors, anomalies, and rare variations to slip through unnoticed. But here lies the enigma. How did some of these 1966 quarters emerge with such extraordinary minting errors that they would go on to be whispered about? In numismatic circles for decades, errors so bizarre that even experts debate their origin, some theorizing about double strikes so cleanly misaligned they seem intentional, others pointing to off-center strikes where the portrait of Washington appears ghostly and incomplete, like a fading memory of the founding father himself, while certain coins seem to possess mismatched planchets, the wrong metal entirely, hinting at clandestine mishaps deep within the coining chambers of the Philadelphia Mint. Yet the mystery only deepens when we learn that 1966 was a year of no official mint marks, an era of intentional anonymity to deter hoarding, which only makes identifying origin points more elusive, and then there's the enduring rumor of 1966 quarters accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets from pre-1965. A slip that would make such a coin not only historically anomalous but worth tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars to the right collector. But if that isn't enough to ignite your curiosity, consider the handful of documented specimens with dramatic die clashes, where the designs of the obverse and reverse smash together in a minting mishap so forceful that ghostly images of eagles and lettering appear where they should not, creating surreal visual distortions unlike anything the public was meant to see, coins that slip past inspectors and into circulation as if by fate, only to be discovered decades later in a box of old change by someone who never dreamed they were holding a key to life-changing wealth. Yet beyond the errors themselves lies the mythology of the 1966 quarter, because this coin emerged in the shadow of the great coin shortage of the mid-1960s, a time when the U.S. Treasury was scrambling to meet demand, when coins were being minted day and night, and when the slightest deviation in production might have been overlooked in the rush. But what if, as some claim, certain rare 1966 quarters were never meant for public eyes at all? Struck as experimental pieces in secret, testing new metal compositions or production methods, and somehow smuggled out by mint employees who knew the value they might one day hold, a scenario both thrilling and dangerous to contemplate, for such coins, if they exist, would be priceless, the ultimate forbidden treasure in American numismatics. Yet the trail is slippery, filled with half-confirmed stories from retired mint workers, auction house rumors, and whispered accounts at coin shows where deals are done in hushed tones. And just when you think you've heard it all, another twist emerges. A collector in the Midwest swears he found a 1966 quarter with a proof-like finish so flawless it could not have been intended for circulation, suggesting a minting mix-up that placed an experimental die into regular production, while a retired dealer recalls a coin that weighed heavier than standard, fueling theories of silver content long after silver's removal. And if we dig deeper into the history, we find that 1966 was part of the 3-year freeze on mint marks, a move that still puzzles historians, with some arguing it was a clever way to mask the tracking of rare error coins, making it harder for collectors to target specific mints during production runs, which means any surviving anomalies from that year are even more shrouded in uncertainty, each one a puzzle piece in a picture too vast and complex to fully see. And here is where the human obsession takes hold, where seasoned collectors speak of sleepless nights spent poring over rolls of quarters under magnifying lamps, their hearts pounding when a faint doubling of a date or letter catches their eye, because they know, deep down, that one single overlooked coin from 1966 could be their golden ticket, their link to a story that will echo in coin collecting lore for generations. And the government's own role in this drama cannot be ignored. For while official statements dismiss most errors as random flukes, internal memos from the era suggest that production inconsistencies were far more common than admitted, that entire batches of flawed coins might have been quietly withdrawn and destroyed, raising the tantalizing possibility that some survivors exist only because they were pocketed by chance before the purge. hidden away in coffee cans, dresser drawers, or forgotten jars in attics, waiting decades for someone to realize their true nature. And what makes the 1966 quarter so uniquely captivating is that it sits at the intersection of mystery, rarity, and historical upheaval, a coin that should have been ordinary yet became extraordinary, and the more you chase its secrets, the more the trail twists, leading you through tales of estate sales where jars of change yielded six-figure treasures, of roadside flea markets where rare errors traded hands for pennies, of auctions where bidding wars erupted over a single flawless specimen, and through it all, the lingering, almost haunting question remains: how many of these legendary coins are still out there, passing from hand to hand, utterly unrecognized by the millions who spend them every day, and could the next one surface in your own change, tomorrow, without warning, setting into motion a discovery that could alter your life forever, because the true magic of the 1966 quarter isn't just in the metal, the strike, or the errors. It's in the chase, the electrifying moment when possibility and reality collide, when history reaches out from your palm and whispers that you're holding something no one else in the world has, and as collectors know all too well, that moment, that rush, is priceless. So the next time a quarter clinks into your hand, pause, look closely, and remember the legend, because somewhere, somehow, one of these coins is still waiting to be found, and it might just be in yours. So keep searching, keep questioning, and keep the story alive. For the mystery of the 1966 quarter is far from over, and the next chapter could be written by you. Next, 1988 D quarter dollars, where today we're diving headfirst into a numismatic mystery so electrifying it'll make your pulse race and your mind spin with questions. What if a single, seemingly insignificant quarter from 1988, struck in Denver, holds secrets so profound it could be worth more than a luxury car, a dream home, or even a small fortune? What if a tiny mistake, a fleeting oversight in the humming, high-stakes world of the U.S. Mint, transformed an ordinary 25-cent coin into a treasure so rare that collectors would sell their souls to possess it? Buckle up, because we're unraveling the enigma of the 1988 D Washington quarter, a coin that's not just pocket change but a portal to a world of intrigue, obsession, and jaw-dropping discoveries that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the coins jangling in your pocket. Let's start with the year itself, 1988, a time when the world was buzzing with change. The Berlin Wall was still standing, the internet was in its infancy with the first computer worms slithering through digital networks, and the U.S. Mint was churning out over 596 million quarters in Denver alone, each one destined for soda machines, parking meters, and piggy banks across America. But among those millions, a select few slipped through the cracks, born not of routine but of chaos, carrying errors so bizarre, so extraordinary, that they've ignited a firestorm of fascination among numismatists, those coin-obsessed detectives who live for the thrill of the hunt. The 1988 D quarter, at first glance, is just another Washington quarter, its obverse bearing the stoic profile of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan in 1932 to honor the first president's bicentennial birth, and its reverse showcasing a heraldic eagle clutching arrows and olive branches, a symbol of strength and peace. It's made of a copper-nickel-clad composition, 91.67% copper, 8.33% nickel over a pure copper core, weighing 5.67 grams, with a reeded edge to thwart counterfeiters, a standard coin by all accounts. But what if I told you that within this sea of sameness, a few rogue quarters emerged, marred by mistakes that turned them into the holy grail of modern coin collecting? Let's dive into the minting process, where the seeds of this mystery were sown. In the Denver Mint, massive presses pounded out coins at a rate of hundreds per minute, each strike a symphony of precision, or so they thought. Human error, mechanical failure, and the relentless pace of production created a perfect storm for anomalies, and the 1988 D quarter became the canvas for some of the most tantalizing errors ever recorded. Imagine a planchet, the blank metal disc that becomes a coin, slipping out of alignment, resulting in an off-center strike where Washington's face is shoved to one side, leaving a crescent of blank metal staring back like a silent scream. These off-center errors, especially those with a full date still visible, can fetch $150 to $200, but the rarest, with 50% or more of the design missing, have sold for thousands, their imperfections a badge of honor in the eyes of collectors. Then there's the broad strike error, where the coin escapes the retaining collar, spreading wider and thinner than normal, its edges smooth and unreaded, creating a ghostly, oversized quarter that feels like it's from another dimension, valued at $20 to $400 depending on its condition. But the real heart-stoppers are the wrong planchet errors, where a quarter design is mistakenly struck on a nickel or dime planchet, creating a coin that's too small, too light, and utterly wrong, yet so right for collectors willing to pay $200 to $1,000 or more for these freaks of nature. Picture the scene: a mint worker, perhaps distracted by the clatter of machinery or the pressure of quotas, feeds the wrong planchet into the press, and out comes a quarter that shouldn't exist, a mistake that slips into circulation, waiting to be discovered by a sharp-eyed cashier or a kid rummaging through change. These errors aren't just accidents, they're time capsules, each one whispering tales of a moment when the mint's ironclad control faltered, and the numismatic world has been chasing these ghosts ever since. But the intrigue deepens when we consider the double die errors, where a misalignment in the die engraving process leaves a ghostly double image, most notably in the inscription, "In God We Trust," creating a coin that looks like it's been touched by a supernatural hand. These are rare for 1988 D quarters, with minor examples fetching $25 to $50. But a significant double die could push values into the hundreds, if one is ever confirmed. The scarcity of these errors is part of the allure, as the mint's modern digital striking technology has made such mistakes rarer, but in 1988, the transition from older acid-pickled dies to laser precision was still imperfect, leaving room for these miraculous flouts. And then there's the partial collar error, where the coin's edge is only partially reeded, giving it a bottle cap effect that screams imperfection, valued at $15 to $100, or the capped error, where grease or debris on the die obscures details, leaving Washington's face or the eagle's feathers blurry, as if the coin is hiding its true identity, fetching $10 to $200. The missing clad layer error is another stunner. Imagine a quarter where the nickel coating never adhered, exposing the copper core and giving the coin a reddish hue, a visual anomaly that can command $50 to $500 depending on its extent. These errors aren't just quirks, they're the fingerprints of chaos in a system designed for order, and each one tells a story of a split-second mistake that could have been swept away but instead became a legend. Now, let's talk value, because the 1988 D quarter's worth isn't just in its errors but in its condition, graded on the Sheldon scale from poor 1 to mint state 70, where perfection reigns supreme. Most circulated 1988 D quarters are worth their face value of 25 cents, their surfaces worn from decades of use, but uncirculated examples in MS-65 condition can fetch $5 to $15, while those in MS-66 climb to $20 to $90. But the true unicorns are the MS-67 coins, so pristine they seem to glow with an otherworldly luster. Only 15 have been graded MS-67 by PCGS, and one sold for $1,645 in 2017, a record that still sends shockwaves through the numismatic community. Even rarer are the MS-67 Plus coins, with just a handful known, valued at $4,250 in May 2025, their scarcity driving collectors into a frenzy. The San Francisco Mint's proof quarters, struck in far smaller numbers, 3,262,948, carry a deep cameo contrast that makes them gleam like mirrors, but their abundance in PR-70 condition keeps their value modest at $4 to $15, though a perfect specimen hit $403 in 2007. The Philadelphia Mint's 562 million quarters mirror Denver's output, with MS-67 examples reaching $750 in 2021. But the Denver coins hold a slight edge in rarity at the highest grades, making them the crown jewels of 1988. But why do these coins captivate us? It's not just the money, it's the stories, the human drama behind each discovery. Picture a collector in a small-town coin shop, flipping through a tray of quarters, when their heart stops, a 1988 D with a missing clad layer, its copper core gleaming like a forbidden secret. Or the tale of a vending machine operator in 1989 who finds an off-center 1988 D quarter, not realizing it's worth hundreds, only to have it vanish into a collection years later, sparking rumors of a lost treasure still circulating. Numismatists are like archaeologists, piecing together clues from these tiny metal artifacts, each one a snapshot of a moment when the U.S. Mint, that bastion of precision, let something extraordinary slip through. Some theorize these errors were no accident. Could a rogue mint worker have sabotaged the process, sneaking flawed coins into circulation as a silent rebellion? Others whisper of terror hoards, secret stashes of misstruck quarters hidden by insiders, waiting to be unleashed on the market to drive up prices. These theories, while unproven, fuel the obsession, as collectors scour pocket change, estate sales, and online auctions, driven by the dream of finding the one, a 1988 quarter so rare it could rewrite their future. The government's role in this saga adds another layer of mystery. The mint, aware of its errors, rarely acknowledges them, preferring to let these anomalies fade into circulation rather than recall them, creating a cat-and-mouse game with collectors who live for the chase. And then there's the historical context. The Washington quarter, born in 1932, was meant to be a one-year commemorative coin, but its popularity made it a permanent fixture, surviving the shift from silver to clad in 1965 due to rising silver costs, a decision that echoes in the 1988 DS humble composition yet doesn't dim its allure. The controversy over its design adds spice. Laura Garden Fraser's winning portrait was rejected in 1931, possibly due to gender bias, in favor of Flanagan, a decision that still stings numismatic purists who wonder what might have been. Every 1988 quarter carries this legacy, a blend of history, art, and error that makes each one a potential jackpot. Next 1994, Jefferson nickels, where today we plunge into one of the most electrifying and mysterious stories in all of American numismatics, the saga of the 1994 quarter dollar. A coin that at first glance might appear as ordinary pocket change yet hides beneath its copper-nickel surface a series of extraordinary minting anomalies and baffling production mysteries so rare and so shocking that they have driven seasoned collectors into obsessive hunts, inspired whispered rumors of government blunders, and sparked fierce bidding wars where prices have soared into unthinkable heights. And I want you to imagine holding such a coin in your palm, feeling its cold weight, staring at the familiar image of George Washington, but realizing you could be holding a piece of metal worth not just hundreds or thousands but potentially a life-changing fortune, all because of a chain of events in 1994 that no one in the Philadelphia Mint could have predicted or perhaps even admitted to, for in that year, as routine minting presses churned out millions of quarters for everyday commerce, a select few slipped through the machinery bearing defects so strange they seemed almost impossible, off-center strikes so dramatic they cut Washington's face in half, double dies that created ghostly echoes of the motto, "In God We Trust," planchets intended for other denominations mistakenly used so that the size, weight, or metallic composition was wrong, and even a whispered legend about a handful of quarters struck on pure silver blanks decades after silver coinage had officially ended, a rumor so wild yet so persistent that some believe the coins were the result of clandestine experiments or unauthorized after-hours strikes, and the intrigue deepens when you consider the political and economic backdrop of the early 1990s, a time when the U.S. Mint was under pressure to modernize equipment and ramp up production, creating an environment ripe for overlooked mistakes, hurried inspections, and the occasional catastrophic blunder. Yet what makes the 1994 quarter so tantalizing isn't just the errors themselves but the trail of bizarre discoveries they've left behind, from the collector in Florida who bought a bag of quarters at face value from his bank and months later found one worth $18,000, to the estate sale in Ohio where an unassuming jar of change contained a 1994 struck on a dime planchet that later sold for more than the owner's entire car. And then there's the haunting story of a retired Mint employee who hinted in a private conversation that a small batch of these error coins was quietly taken out of circulation and stored in a secure government facility for reasons he would not disclose, raising questions about whether some were intentionally kept from the public due to their unusual compositions or politically sensitive nature. And as word spread through the numismatic community, the coin's reputation grew from a quirky mint error to a legendary rarity, fueling speculation that only a few dozen in top condition even exist. And the tension builds when you realize that some examples may still be sitting unnoticed in change drawers, parking meter returns, or coin rolls waiting to be hunted by an unsuspecting finder, making the 1994 quarter not just a collector's dream but a real-life treasure hunt, a hidden jackpot circulating quietly through the veins of everyday commerce. And yet the more experts examine these coins, the stranger the story. becomes, with microscopic analysis revealing unusual die wear patterns inconsistent with standard mint production, leading some to theorize about experimental dies, mismatched press calibrations, or even sabotage, and if that weren't enough to fuel late-night debates among collectors, the market's response has been nothing short of explosive, with pristine examples certified at the highest grades drawing offers that rival the price of luxury homes, and still, questions remain unanswered. How many are truly out there? How did such glaring errors escape detection in a facility built to avoid them? And could there be even more shocking varieties waiting to be discovered, the kind that could rewrite the history books on U.S. coinage? And it's in these unanswered questions that the 1994 P quarter transforms from a mere object into a symbol of the unpredictable nature of history. A tangible reminder that even in a system designed for perfection, the smallest slip of human error, the faintest oversight, can create an artifact so rare, so valuable, and so steeped in mystery that it becomes the stuff of legend. And as you picture the countless hands this coin may have passed through, from cash registers to vending machines, from kids' allowances to collectors' showcases, ask yourself, what if one of those hands could be yours? What if that unassuming quarter in your change right now is the very one that could fund your dreams, pay off your debts, and secure your future? And that is why the hunt for the 1994 P quarter is not just a search for a coin but a chase for a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, a pursuit that blends history, luck, and relentless curiosity into a story so compelling that every moment spent searching feels like stepping deeper into a real-world treasure map whose X marks not a spot on the ground but a date, a mint mark, and a single letter, P. That could mean the difference between 25 cents and a fortune beyond imagining, so keep looking. Keep questioning, and never forget that the next coin you touch could be the key to unlocking one of the greatest modern mysteries in American currency history. Next, 1965 quarter dollars, where today we unravel a mystery so electrifying it could rewrite the way you think about the spare change rattling in your pocket, because what if a small mistake made the 1965 US quarter the most valuable coin ever struck, a numismatic legend whispered about in collector circles, shrouded in secrecy, government blunders, and shocking discoveries that have left experts baffled and treasure hunters obsessed. Picture this, it's 1965, America is in upheaval, the Beatles are storming the charts, the Vietnam War is escalating, and deep within the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, a seemingly ordinary quarter is born, but hidden within its unassuming 24.3mm diameter lies a secret so profound it could be worth millions, a coin that defies the very laws of minting history, a coin that shouldn't exist, yet does, sparking questions that haunt every numismatist's dreams. What went wrong in that fateful year? And could you, right now, be holding a fortune in your hand? Let's dive into the heart of this enigma, where the 1965 quarter emerges not just as a piece of pocket change but as a symbol of a seismic shift in American coinage, a moment when the U.S. government, desperate to combat a silver shortage that threatened the economy, made a decision that would ripple through time, creating a coin that's both a relic and a riddle, because in 1965, the mint transitioned from striking quarters in 90% silver to a new copper-nickel-clad composition, a move signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson himself. But amidst this chaotic overhaul, something slipped through the cracks, something extraordinary, something that turned an ordinary 25-cent piece into a numismatic holy grail. Imagine the scene, the Philadelphia Mint, churning out over 1.8 billion quarters, yes, billion with a B, making it one of the most common coins in U.S. history, yet within this ocean of metal, a tiny fraction of these quarters were struck on the wrong planchets, pure silver blanks left over from the pre-1965 era, a mistake so rare, so improbable, that only a handful are known to exist, each one a glittering anomaly weighing 6.25 grams instead of the standard 5.67 grams, and if you're wondering how to spot one, grab a scale, because this single gram difference could mean the difference between pocket change and a payday of over $7,000, or even millions, as one such silver era quarter reportedly sold for a staggering $1 million, a figure that sends shivers down the spine of every collector who's ever dreamed of uncovering a hidden treasure. But the mystery deepens. What if this wasn't just a mistake, but a cover-up, a government slip-up buried in the chaos of the mid-60s, when the mint deliberately removed mint marks from coins between 1965 and 1967 to deter hoarding, leaving the 1965 quarter without the familiar D or S that collectors cherish. A decision that sparked confusion and fueled wild theories, because if you find a 1965 quarter with a mint mark, it's almost certainly a fake, a forgery crafted to deceive, yet the absence of that mark only adds to the coin's mystique, making every unmarked quarter a potential clue in a decades-long treasure hunt. Let's talk about the errors that make this coin legendary. Beyond the silver planchet anomaly, there's the double-tailed quarter, a freakish error where both sides of the coin bear the reverse design, an impossibility that defies minting logic, with only 3 known specimens, 2 of which sold for $40,000 and $80,000, prices that whisper of dark secrets and illicit trades. Because how could such a coin exist unless someone, somewhere, tampered with the mint's sacred processes? Then there's the broad strike error, where the coin was struck without its retaining collar, causing the design to stretch and distort, the letters of Liberty and United States bleeding into the rim, creating a warped, otherworldly appearance that collectors covet, with some fetching hundreds or even thousands at auction. And let's not forget the double die errors, where the design appears duplicated, a ghostly echo of George Washington's profile or the bald eagle's wings, each imperfection a testament to the mint's frantic pace in 1965, a year when human error and mechanical failure collided to create numismatic gold. But why does this coin ignite such obsession? It's not just the money, it's the story, the historical context, the moment when America stood at a crossroads, when silver was vanishing from circulation, hoarded by a public who saw its value soar beyond the coin's face, when the mint, under pressure to keep coins in circulation, produced special mint sets with a satin finish for collectors. 2.3 million quarters struck with a luster so distinct it sets them apart, yet even these are overshadowed by the rare silver errors, coins that slipped through the mint's fingers like ghosts, each one a snapshot of a nation in transition, a nation grappling with change, inflation, and the weight of its own history. Collectors tell tales that sound like fiction. One man, rummaging through his grandfather's cigar box, found a 1965 quarter that gleamed too brightly, weighed it, and discovered it was silver, selling it for $5,462 at auction, while another collector, Eric Miller, shared on social media that a silver 1965 quarter fetched $8,400, a figure that electrified the numismatic community, sparking a frenzy of searches through old jars and dusty drawers, because what if the next $1 million coin is hiding in plain sight? Experts weigh in, their voices trembling with excitement. Joshua McMorrow Hernandez, a numismatic scholar, calls the silver 1965 quarter a transitional error, a relic of a mint caught in flux, while the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, estimates that only a few dozen silver errors exist, with the finest known specimen, graded MS-68, valued at $15,500, a number that feels like a taunt, daring you to check your own coins. But the rumors grow wilder. Some whisper of a $12 million sale, though no evidence confirms it, a myth that fuels the coin's legend, while others speak of lost coins, entire batches of silver quarters melted down or hidden away, their existence erased by a mint desperate to move forward, leaving collectors to chase shadows, to scour flea markets and estate sales, driven by the hope that the next coin they touch could rewrite their future. The 1965 quarter is more than metal. It's a portal to a time when mistakes became miracles, when a government's oversight birthed a treasure, when a single coin could hold the weight of history, and as you sit there, perhaps holding a quarter of your own, ask yourself, could this be the one, the silver anomaly, the double-tailed freak, the broad strike beauty that collectors dream of? The suspense is unbearable, the stakes are astronomical, and the mystery is far from solved, because somewhere out there, in a piggy bank, a parking meter, or a forgotten drawer, the next 1965 quarter is waiting, ready to shock the world, to rewrite the rules of value, and to make someone, maybe even you, a legend in the numismatic universe. So keep watching, keep searching, and never stop believing in the power of a single, impossible coin. Next, 1998 quarter dollars USA coins, and today we step into a numismatic mystery so deep and electrifying that it might just change the way you look at the change in your pocket forever. Because what if a small, almost invisible mistake made on a cold day in the US Mint back in 1998 turned an ordinary 25-cent piece into one of the most valuable coins ever struck, a piece so rare, so steeped in legend, that even the most seasoned collectors can't agree on exactly how it came to be, sparking decades of whispers, rumors, and frenzied hunts through jars of loose change, estate sales, and forgotten bank vaults, all in hopes of finding that elusive 1998 quarter dollar with its extraordinary minting errors, the kind of coin that looks perfectly normal at first glance yet hides anomalies so bizarre and unlikely that they could only have happened through a convergence of mechanical failure, human oversight, and pure chance, as though fate itself intervened to create a tiny metallic time capsule of mystery. And here's where it gets even more intriguing. Official mint records from 1998 show nothing unusual, nothing that would explain the existence of a coin struck in Denver that somehow exhibits misalignments, doubled dies, and even reports of partial clad layer loss. Yet the few documented examples bear these features so consistently that experts believe we may be looking at the result of a rogue batch, perhaps struck during a shift change or late at night when fewer inspectors were on duty, leading to the perfect storm where flawed dies went unnoticed, producing coins that slipped through quality control and into circulation before anyone realized what had happened. And as collectors began to stumble upon them in the late 2000s, the stories grew wilder. One man swears he found his in a laundromat machine. Another claims his came from a roll of quarters purchased directly from a bank in rural Colorado, and yet another insists he inherited his from a relative who worked at the Denver Mint and was told never to speak of it. But the rabbit hole goes deeper when you consider the historical context of 1998 itself, a year before the U.S. Mint launched the state quarters program, meaning die preparation and design changes were already underway, possibly leading to crossover of experimental planchets or misaligned hubbing equipment that could have created coins with subtly warped details, faintly doubled lettering, or even ghost-like impressions of other denominations. And while skeptics argue these anomalies are merely the result of random damage or post-mint alterations, the consistency in certain diagnostic markers, slightly shifted mint marks, irregular reading patterns, and tiny raised die chips in the eagle's feathers, suggests something much more intentional or at least much more specific to a single moment in the production timeline, which raises chilling possibilities. Could a mint employee, aware of the upcoming collectible craze of the state quarters, have deliberately engineered a few special coins to release quietly into circulation, knowing their rarity would only grow with time? Or is this simply the universe playing dice with our currency, creating a one in a billion accident that now commands tens of thousands of dollars at auction? And yet the legend doesn't stop there, because there are rumors, whispered in numismatic circles late at night at coin shows, of an even rarer variant, a 1998 D struck on a planchet intended for a foreign contract coin, giving it an unusual weight and color that only the sharpest-eyed collector would notice, and the idea that somewhere in the world, perhaps tucked away in a forgotten drawer or embedded in the till of a small-town diner, lies the one coin that could rewrite the record books, fuels an obsession that has driven people to extremes, selling cars, traveling cross-country, and spending years scouring yard sales and flea markets in search of it. And when you think about it, the value of this coin isn't just in its rarity or the precious metal it may, or may not, contain, but in the stories it carries, the sleepless nights of the hunters, the sudden adrenaline of a discovery, the thrill of knowing you might be holding history in your palm. And yet for every confirmed find there are countless fakes, expertly crafted to fool even trained eyes, adding another layer of danger to the hunt. Because here you're not just searching for treasure, you're navigating a minefield of deception, government secrecy, and unanswered questions, like why certain coin grading services have been reluctant to publicly certify the most dramatic error examples, or why some collectors claim their authenticated pieces later vanished from auction records without explanation, as if someone, or something, wants to keep the total known population of these coins shrouded in uncertainty. And that's where this story transforms from a simple collector's tale into a shadowy saga of lost archives, whispered confessions, and the tantalizing possibility that the most valuable 1998 quarter dollar has yet to be found, perhaps sitting in a dusty jar on your own kitchen counter, waiting for the right eyes to recognize it. A reminder that sometimes the greatest treasures aren't buried deep underground, but are hiding in plain sight, carried in our pockets, passing unnoticed from hand to hand until the day someone finally looks closely enough to uncover the secret. And when that moment comes, it will spark not just joy, but a seismic ripple through the world of numismatics, rewriting the history of American coinage and proving once and for all that even in the age of mass production, magic can happen by accident. Next 1993_P quarter dollars USA coins today, where today we unravel a mystery so electrifying, so drenched in secrecy and possibility, that it could rewrite what you thought you knew about pocket change forever, because what if a small mistake, a flicker of imperfection so subtle it eludes almost every glance, made the 1993 quarter dollar one of the most valuable coins ever struck by the United States Mint, a coin so steeped in whispers and contradictions that its story feels less like numismatic history and more like a lost chapter from a national treasure saga, a story beginning in the bustling corridors of the Philadelphia Mint in 1993, when the air was thick with the hum of presses pounding out millions of ordinary quarters for the American public, yet somewhere amid that routine, somewhere between the perfect alignment of dies and the pristine strike of copper-nickel-clad planchets, anomalies were born, errors so strange, so hard to replicate, that they would turn an otherwise common coin into a rare jewel worth more than most cars, a coin whose rarity is not due to mintage numbers alone, but due to a combination of freak conditions, unconfirmed production mishaps, and perhaps even intentional acts cloaked under the guise of accidental flaws. And imagine the sheer intrigue when collectors began reporting sightings of quarters with double dies on Washington's portrait so crisp it seemed like a ghostly twin lurking beneath the surface, or off-center strikes where the rim swelled like the coin itself was struggling to escape its own frame, or broad strikes that extended the diameter in an almost unnatural way, each one fueling speculation that something went very wrong, or very right, on those presses, and then came the rumors about transitional errors, that some 1993 quarters were somehow struck on planchets intended for earlier years, or even on silver planchets left over from commemorative runs, a possibility so wild it sent treasure hunters diving into their change jars with magnifying glasses, while old-time dealers whispered about government slip-ups, mismatched dies, and a handful of pieces that may have been quietly pulled from circulation and locked away, perhaps in private collections, perhaps in the Mint's own vaults, and yet, no official confirmation has ever come, which only adds fuel to the legend, because when there's a void of proof, theories multiply like wildfire. Was there a rogue employee slipping experimental strikes into the mix, or were these pieces part of a covert test that accidentally escaped, like a genetic mutation released into the wild of commerce, and if so, how many could be out there still, hidden in the loose change of someone who has no idea they're holding a fortune? And the historical backdrop makes the allure even stronger, because 1993 was not just another year. It was the prelude to the State Quarters program, a period when the Mint was experimenting, tweaking processes, modernizing equipment, a time ripe for small oversights to result in massive consequences, and while official mintage numbers for the 1993 quarter soar into the hundreds of millions, the coins that matter, the coins that make seasoned collectors' voices drop to a hush, are those rare error-struck survivors, the ones found in unsearched bank rolls, estate sales, or the back of dusty antique shop drawers, where an unknowing seller might part with it for face value, setting the stage for one of the greatest modern coin score stories of all time, stories like the man in Pennsylvania who claimed to have sold a Mint State 1993 double die obverse for over 5 figures to a private buyer who insisted on total secrecy, or the retired teacher who discovered a bizarrely thick-rimmed off-center 1993 in her vacation change jar and ended up trading it for a down payment on a cabin, or the whispers of a Texas collector who allegedly owns a proof-like strike that never should have existed for a circulation coin, its mirrored fields and frosted devices defying every minting protocol of the era, and as each tale emerges, the line between confirmed history and folklore blurs, drawing in even casual hobbyists who can't help but search their quarters in dim lamplight, hoping for that heart-stopping moment when an unusual detail leaps out, because that's the irresistible pull of this story, the knowledge that somewhere, maybe in your desk drawer or the cup holder of your car, there could be a quarter that isn't just change, but a key to unlocking a legend, a piece whose journey from mint floor to your hand is a path paved with accidents, secrets, and perhaps a touch of fate, and every expert who dares to speak on it seems to offer just enough truth to keep the hope alive while leaving enough unsaid to keep the mystery burning, because they know the hunt is half the magic, and the other half is the shock when the hunt ends in discovery, when a coin once worth 25 cents becomes a ticket to the Numismatic Hall of Fame. And that is why, as you hear these words, your pulse might quicken at the thought that the next 1993 quarter you see could be the one, the anomaly, the survivor, the piece that slipped through the cracks of the Mint's perfection and into the hands of destiny. So keep your eyes open, your change close, and your curiosity sharper than ever, Because legends don't just live in dusty books, they live in your pocket, waiting to be found, and when you find yours, you'll understand why this story refuses to fade. And before you go, remember that every subscription, every like, every shared story keeps the hunt alive for all of us who believe that the smallest mistake can be the start of the greatest treasure hunt of our lives. So stay tuned, stay curious, and keep searching.